Welcome to the Hearthstone Complaint Department podcast. Hope you are not sodium intolerant. Here are your hosts, Jay and Nick. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to the Hearthstone Complaint Department, where we do a deep dive on the saltiest takes about Hearthstone, past, present, and future. Remember, this is not an I Hate Hearthstone show, but we are here to talk about all the things that drive people crazy with this game, unpack them, and see how we can turn those smiles or frowns upside down, depending on what type of attitude you're in. And we are on episode 2. This is episode 2. Very, very aptly, wham! My video game looks like a cartoon. There's some stuff to unpack there, but first, let's talk about all the things that we need to talk about, but we can't do that until we introduce Nick. Nick, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. Honestly, Genbaku back in standard, best thing they've ever done in this video game.
I love it as well. The only thing that I was looking at, I spent probably 3 days looking for a good deck that was below 5,000 dust so I could put in, for like a budget deck video. Nothing. I can't find anything below 7,000 dust. And I think it's so good, but for newer players, I think they're missing out. Like those that don't have a lot of dust.
Yeah, when you have like decks that have a lot of restrictions, like even odd decks or like Reno decks, you're going to find a lot of legendaries in those decks because they just fill in powerful slots rather than cards that are more synergistic because they don't really match up very well. And that's kind of just what happens. But yeah, how have you been doing this week?
Good. Besides looking for that, everything is good. I think I have all of the pieces that I need to for Battlegrounds. Last week I was dealing with Battlegrounds, and then I think we have 7 days or less on Twist season before it switches to another one. We'll get more heroes, so I'm messing around with that, and I'm excited for all of the news that we got this week. We have information about the mini set, we have information about everything that happened in the past few days, and I was going to ask you, and you started asking me, how is the game going for you this week besides Genbaku?
I'm going to be honest, that's all I've done. It's just Genbaku. I'm not even playing in like a high rank because I'm not very high rated in standard. I probably have like a 30% win rate on even Hunter, but I don't care. It's all I'm spamming. It is fun.
I want to mess around with I'm probably going to mess around with something Death Knight related soon. I figured, the next couple of days I'll mess around with that, see if I can get something good going. But I think you and I really need to work together to see if we can find something that's as low cost as possible for all of our budget deck fans, to see if we can find something that they can use for, because it's a shame that they're not trying this, because some of these newer players, they weren't around when these were, when these were in standard, and they're missing something. Absolutely.
Yeah. The one upside though is since they are core cards, at least helps a little bit.
Absolutely. I just feel by the time something else comes out, they're it's going to be gone, because this is only staying in until
they leave when the expansion comes in. Yeah. Which is so lame. Come on, keep them in.
No, absolutely. I think I'm fine with it. You were mentioning something today that it wasn't super impactful. It's not breaking anything. Listen, if they can put Reno and Brand back in and do all the crazy stuff that's been busted for the past couple of weeks with Highlander decks, they can leave these in a little bit. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about new things, I don't know if anybody else has been living under a rock like I have, but there's some cool stuff coming out. We got the new expansion hype this week, Perils in Paradise. Hearthstone is going to be giving us a new mini set. It looks like we're going on an island adventure July 23rd. And I want to talk about what we think is good and bad, because there's a couple of things that came up yet. We're seeing some of the card reveals now. We saw a couple of the cards this past couple of days. And then Monday, I believe the reveals start coming back again. Yeah. Nick, what do you think about this? What is the good of this new expansion that we've seen so far?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I think this is probably the most hyped I've been for a Hearthstone expansion in a long time. I like even more like I liked the theme of Showdown in the Badlands and Whizbang's Workshop, but this one just something about it just feels so cool. Like it's summer right now. You got they're all in their bather suits, they're going out surfing, they're drinking alcohol the whole time. They are drinking alcohol, especially. Like that's something that people
Yep.
It's so funny. So like I just really like this expansion, like the theme of it, and I really don't understand why people don't.
Yeah, I saw, and we're going to get into that a little bit. And that's the theme of this episode is why is there a problem with the silliness in the game? And I agree with you as well. I think that the art style looks cool. I think that the expansion set, there is a couple of things. Listen, we've only seen like a fourth of the set, or maybe even less than that. So there's a lot more for us to see. But everything that they've done so far, I love the idea of the tourist mechanic. I love the idea of, the other pieces where Marin's back. It's really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. Marin is, like, apparently really strong in Standard. And Wild, it's not really doing much of anything, just because, it's so slow. But I've seen people complain about that card in, like, Reno Warrior and how you'll high roll, get Bran and Reno on, like, turn 7 if you coin it. And people are just, like, losing their minds over this.
Yeah, you can get the Thorum as well, so you could have all three of those crazy cards for 0 mana. I did not see anything crazy when I personally tried this a few times. I have not given it as much of a try as others, but I know that there's decks that wouldn't have had anything like this into their decks until this came out, and then boom, they're putting it on. Like even my wife was like, "Oh, I should put this in my mage deck for fun." And she's doing good with it. And that's cool. I like the fact, with the last couple expansions, we got a card. And yes, it was a card. Absolutely. It was a free card, but like they weren't really used. And I think this one, really, the utility of what you can use this for has been stronger, I feel, than the last 2 expansions.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now because I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I think Whizbangs, I know you got Geppetto from the pass, and then there was what was the other one? Got at the before the expansion came out. Do you remember?
Geppetto, Califioro?
Oh yeah, Califero. And
Califero.
Califero wasn't anything special. It was just like a kind of okay combo piece. And then Showdown in the Badlands was oh gosh, I can't remember. They're so the cards aren't very good. So
no, it's like, exactly. If we can't remember them right off the top of our head, I think this one's going to be something that's super memorable.
Oh, it was Thunderbringer. It was Thunderbringer. I think Thunderbringer was actually quite good in Rogue, if I remember, like a big Rogue, but that's all I can remember.
I don't remember putting it anything besides maybe I put that in Ogre Priest to me. I don't remember. See, that's what we're saying. We're both realizing that if we could go through and say, hey, what did we put that in? It's not been 6 years ago. It's been a couple of months ago. So that's one of the other things I wanted to mention that that it's good, and I'm really, really stoked about this, is we don't have any paywalls in this expansion. That corridor sleeper for the last expansion was, hey, if you buy the expansion right now, you can sit there and, you can get these 2 cards that you can play right now. And the backlash on that was immense. It was a lot. There was a lot of people hating on that. And I love the fact that they didn't go and say, hey, let's do it again. Like, we didn't see anything like that. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a twofold thing that Corridor Sleeper was a bad card as well. I think that if it was a powerful card, they would have gotten more like people to buy the expansion, which would have led to them maybe thinking it was a good thing. But also because it wasn't very good, people didn't really have a reason to keep complaining after the expansion came out, kind of. You know what I mean? Because it was just it's a terrible card. Like, that's the thing. Like, after people experimented with it for a few days.
Yeah, it would have been a much different story. And listen, they're not. I don't think that Blizzard is dumb. I don't think that the powers that be did that specific card for no good reason. I think there's a method to their madness. If I'm going to test something, I'm going to test something not at the highest level that I can do it. I'm not putting something in that's going to break it or make it something that's an absolute necessity 100%. But I wanted to go through a little bit more. Can you think of anything that was good before we get to the next part, which is the bad of this expansion's announcement?
I'm not gonna lie. Like, aside from talking about the cards themselves, I can't really say anything because I don't want to talk about them right during this part because we'll probably talk about them in a minute. But I just think they're cool. I don't know. I don't really have anything negative.
I agree. All right, so let's do this. There's one thing I want to talk about here, the bad, and I don't even know if this is the case yet. So bear with me. We're seeing that the expansion normally, every time we get an announcement, we get a song and dance, we get the announcement video, we get a little bit of information, we get to see the board, we get to see a couple of items. And, I didn't see a board this time. I didn't see the game board. I didn't see any like I saw the video that they're discussing it, but we didn't get like a trailer video, if you will. We didn't get like a song. We didn't get, any type of thing like that. And it's making me just like, okay, are we getting it? Is it just not ready yet? And I'm fine with that.
So the board might not be ready yet. Like that's a possibility. I think they are just saving it, for later or something, because if you've seen the map that they've shown of like the island that it's taking place on, there's no way that they can't do like some really cool things with it. And I think that like, because you know how like a lot of boards have big theatrical effects where you complete the little puzzle.
Yep.
I feel like that they're probably just struggling on that, and they didn't, they had already planned to have it done. So it's probably something like that. For the cinematic, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of preferred the flight thing that they did with like Raffle, Tice, Pathra was on it, and then like others. I like that a lot. I like that video, so I'm not too upset if that was like what the replacement of the cinematic was. But
right,
yeah, like if that's what it's supposed to be, I'm not upset. Rather than like, oh, they just like or only doing this one time and then it's you get what I mean.
Yeah, the announcement video was awesome. The video where they went through the flight safety procedures.
Yeah, it's great.
I believe that that's the case, that we just didn't see these items yet. But I don't know if you've looked at all of social media. There was a small group on social media that was going, "Oh, they're not doing it. They're not going to have any more game boards because they're slowing down." And this is the and you see that and you're like, oh, maybe. I've got no one told me no, that's not going to be the case. Makes me a little nervous. Listen, if we have to wait for certain elements, or if we have to, move like the expectations of when we're going to see X, Y, and Z to keep this going, would you be okay with not having game boards anymore if we could have more cards every expansion cycle?
Oh, for sure. If we went up to like 15 cards and didn't have game boards, I would not complain for a second.
Exactly.
That would be so much better. Even like 12 cards and then no, like per class and then no game board, that's still like an additional 22 cards. Oh, like including if they wanted to add more neutrals, I would so be down for that. The game boards are cool and all, but like they're not that necessary. You're only going to see them once every 100 times if you're playing Wild, especially.
Right.
So, like, yeah, it's probably more of an impact for a standard player for that to be new game boards. But in Wild, like at one point I memorized the Saviors of Old Doom board, but I probably haven't seen it in like 3 or 4 months. Like the board, because there's so many different options that you can get. It's just sometimes you won't see boards for a long time if you're just not even that unlucky. Pretty standard amount of luck.
Yeah, I'm noticing that as well, because I, messing around with Twist, messing around with Wild, just to play some of these new cards. I'm like, oh, I forgot that board existed. I'd love to be able to do what we've done in the past, where we can rotate them a little bit faster, or like we're getting the ability to rotate the card backs, or rotate the hero skins or what have you. Give us the opportunity, because there's some cool boards out there that I have not seen in forever. And because I don't play Wild all the time, I'm not seeing those at all. You know?
Yeah. If I had the choice to like pick, like if they let you pick like 5 boards you could have, I would do Roscon's Rumble. I'd do the Saviors of Uldum one, of course. I'd do the Whizbang's Workshop, I think it is. That one's really good. What's it called? Festival of Legends, that one.
That's
and then
what I was about to say.
Then probably like Ungoro as well, because those all have the big effects when you actually complete the thing. And then the Whizbang's Workshop has like a lot of different things that you can play with. It's really cool.
Yeah. They're all really cool. And that's why I was just sitting there saying, like, hey, you know, if we never had them before, I think we'd be okay with that. Not that I want that, you know, because that just normally means like, oh, they don't have the budget for that. I want a game board. I do. If I have to get rid of a game board, not having that all the time, or maybe just give us 1 per year, or, you know, 2 per year, something like that. We care enough about the game to say we can take, you know, certain things, you know, off of the radar, so we can make sure that other things that are more important than the look of a feel of a game board, you know, to have those cool things on the radar, if you will.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I think if we have to lose something, because Blizzard is doing budget cuts, Microsoft budget cuts, every game company is having budget cuts. If we had to lose something, the game boards are not that big of a deal. Like exactly. Compared to art quality, compared to card quality, compared to like balancing, I'd much rather just lose these game boards, you know?
Yeah. What about the cards so far? What do you think? First impressions, knowing that we will probably be doing some sort of combined this week in Hearthstone, Flare Hearthstone, you know, card review or something like that soon. But what is your first impressions of what you've seen so far, and what stands out to you?
I think Tourist is probably one of the best keywords they've introduced in years. It's definitely better than Excavate, I can tell you that one. But like Tourist is so cool because it's not technically a keyword that has to only be around for one expansion. I feel like you could easily put Tourist in another expansion and just it would work the same way. You only have, you know, expansion tied to that card, because say 3 years from now we have like Mists of Pandaria expansion with Tourist, and then it's just you get all it works the same way. I don't know. I just think it's really cool to be able to play cards in other classes. People love that concept. Having cards be in other classes, you know, cards that are similar to other classes being in your class feels great. Everyone's like, oh, I want this rogue card in my class because rogue can draw 1 million cards. Stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I loved dual class when it first came out. I was bummed that there was a limiting factor of this. We had the triple class cards in Mean Streets, but that didn't really count. I'd love to be able to put more into the regular neutral category, or make it to where, hey, listen, maybe the mini set could be like, we're going to go forwards in that little, like, okay, you can only have a tourist from these classes. Let's go backwards. So you can go either here or there. So you could either be, this class, or you could this class. And that's, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Maybe they're smarter than us and they've got it all figured out, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. If there's like a card where it's like, in your deck, your tourist is reversed.
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah, like a legendary, it probably doesn't have any effect, like Renethal, right? It's just the effect of what it does to your deck.
Right.
Something like that. That would be really cool. I'm not gonna lie. I think the way that they're gonna handle it is that they'll probably do like 3 or 4 cards for like, say in Hunter, right? Hunter has Priest is the Hunter Taurus, and then the Hunter Taurus is Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be like 3 or 4 cards are made to be want to play them in Priest, right? And then Priest will have, 3 or 4 cards that are like, okay, these Hunter cards go really well with these Priest cards. And then the other Hunter cards, maybe like, again, 3, 4, maybe even like a full half of them, 5, are also like, okay, these want to synergize with the Warrior cards that are now they want you to play in Hunter. they'll probably have, cards that do that, but are still just strong enough that you'd want to play them with the other style cards. That'll probably be what it is. But that's like where I think they're going to go with this, because it wouldn't really make sense to do it in any other way, really.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I like it.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I like it. What did you think about the potential of the locations being filled out right away?
Oh, that's a very cool mechanic.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's like really hard to design, because a lot of locations you have to how do I put this? You have to doubly put what the location is for, right? Like the taunt one that we saw in Druid is to gain taunts and armor. Those are two things that kind of go together. But say you have like, I don't even know, like say Mage, right? Mage is with Druid is in Mage, and then Mage is in Paladin, or other way around, whatever. Say the Mage location is like, I don't even know, like deal X damage, randomly split, but you have to play like a beast or something, which Mage doesn't really have access to very heavily, Like it's that kind of idea is what I'm trying to like go through. Where it would make sense in the context of this expansion and it being in Druid, but doesn't really make sense in the context of Mage.
Yeah, I like what they've done so far. We only have one example yet. The cards are being, coming back to reveal this week. But the one that they came out with, the Druid hiking trail, and I also like, looking at the cards that were set up on or what have you. The Cruise Captain Laura, where it's the pirate that summons 2 random locations. I think Druid was amazing, and then it paused for a little bit, and now I think it's got some busted things potentially coming up, but we've only seen, like I said, just a few cards. We've only seen how many cards now? 22 cards so far.
22,
Yeah, 22 out of the entire set of 140 something. That's not that many, so who knows? What else about the cards besides the fact is you and I have to do some more card reveals? Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm not. None of them really seem like they're going to do anything like too broken, and wild especially, I could say. But It is a little sad that Taurus can't be like all cards, because if you could put Shutterwalk in Death Knight would easily be one of the best classes in Wild. It wouldn't be a bottom tier class anymore.
I'm glad that you're not on Team 5 sometimes, because that is a bad idea. Good, but bad.
You're gonna tell me that you don't think oh gosh, what class is it? Whatever the one that has Priest as their Taurus, you don't think you should give that class Radiant Elemental? What the heck, dude?
No. Listen, and you know what? And you just made 2 statements here. You said it's like it does anything too broken. I like that. And I think that's very good for the last couple expansions that we had. We had Titans. Titans was nutty. Titans broke things. Titans made things uncomfortable for some. Then we had the whole Highlander mechanic. And then in between there, we had those excavate treasures that just was also completely broken. Look at what the treasure was, the legendary treasure was for Warlock. How many times was that nerfed? I think it was at least 2.
Was it 2?
I thought it was, but it's still like it's. Still
it has been nerfed. That's the thing.
Right. It's just, you know what? Maybe this is the settle one. Maybe this is not. Usually you would think that the first set of the year would be a little bit the calm before the storm. Maybe this one's the calm before the storm. I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything that's like. Nothing sticks out at me to where this is broken. We are going to have some craziness because X, Y, and Z. But yeah, we're only 22 cards in so far.
Yeah, so. I would kind of prefer if they just stopped. So this is a thing that a lot of people that play Demon Hunter have been talking about, where they will print like 9 terrible cards in Demon Hunter and then 1 really broken card that makes up for all the bad cards. Umbral Grasp, right? Or your or I don't remember if it's Umpire's Grasp, sorry. Or your the Sharpshooter, the Naga, right? Where like the rest of the cards in the expansion are not that good. They're probably fine at best. But then you have the 1 really broken card. I wish they would stop doing that, because it's noticeable across a couple classes that they're doing that. Like, why can't we just have like 8 pretty good cards and then probably, you know, 2 bad cards, because that's what happens usually. It's really annoying to have like most of your expansion be terrible. One card is really broken, and then like if that card gets nerfed, you don't have cards. You didn't get an expansion.
No, I agree. I agree with you as well. You know, they have some cool ideas for, you know, the way the archetype or the way the decks are going to interact, and then anything changes with that 1 card or 2 cards, it just messes up the entire season for that class. And it's kind of, that's why we have Demon Hunter so low for so long. That's why we had Warrior, you know, right before it got all the craziness with Odin or what have you. Warrior was on the bottom of the food chain the entire time, you know, like a big chunk of last year. And I think it was Cora that said, hey, we're working on it. But it's because just a couple of cards got changed, you know, and just nerfed it. What was it? I would think that it had something to do about Bran leaving core. You know, the original Bran.
So it was, Warrior was already like not very good going into Sunken City, even in both formats. It was like, it was fine, right? But then guess what? They printed 2 really broken cards. Then the rest of the cards were all very bad. Those cards got nerfed. Shocking. Warrior didn't have an expansion. And then, you know, Nathria and March of the Lich King and even Festival of Legends were like mediocre at best for Warrior as well. Do you remember the riffs on release? Like,
oh yeah,
and that's why people were complaining about Warrior being so bad, because Warrior had, you know, a really strong Alterac Valley that you had rotated from standard, you know, or was going to rotate from standard, and then, you know, United and Stormwind, again, really strong for Warrior, and then they got nerfed really hard in Sunken City, and then you just couldn't play Warrior for an entire year in standard. Yeah. And then you couldn't even play it for 1 expansion in standard. And then they buffed like 2 of the riffs, and then dropped Odin on everyone's dome, and then suddenly Warrior is great again.
And then it was over. And that's not great. When 1 card can make or break a class, that's something that needs to be tweaked. And listen, they don't have an easy job. I don't think that doing a balance change to a card or 2, good or bad, will change it. I think it's the way the class is identifying itself as, you know, a grand total of the, you know, of the parts of it. I don't think one little nerf here and there is going to, you know, be a good thing. If it's broken already, one card should not make it completely unplayable. If that made sense. Okay.
Yeah, at least Warrior is somehow surviving that exact scenario this expansion, because both Bran and Reno were nerfed. You know, in the past for Warrior, at least, you know, if they, like I said, if they only had the bad cards, it would be dead. But because Warrior got so many actually good cards, the, you know, broken cards got nerfed, and it's still playable. It's still really strong.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens, because we're supposed to be getting a balance patch soon.
Probably we'll probably see the announcement like Thursday. Is usually when they do it.
It'll be interesting to see what it is, because if you're looking at the win rates just on HS Replay, I know it's not a full accounting. You keep on seeing, like, every week it goes above 50%, below 50%, above 50%. This is for Warrior. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, happens, because listen, if anything's going to get touched, and I think there's a couple of content creators that even said that recently. I don't know if I agree with all of them or what have you, that there's something going to happen with Reno in terms of nerfs or what have you. And listen, the only real, like, I'm seeing a lot of Reno Warrior as the main culprit in that conversation. Those 3 cards between Bran, Reno, and that other one is just, it's unstoppable in Warrior.
Yeah,
that nerf that they did not nerf it at all.
No. Yeah, I don't understand why they did that to Thogrun. I don't get it. Why did they make it shuffle into your opponent's deck? So now it just punishes your opponent for drawing cards? Like, like what? I don't know.
Yep.
Like, I get. So the reason they did it was probably to prevent Thogrun from turning off your own Reno, right? But they removed that aspect of the shuffle cards in the first place.
Yeah, no, I don't. I agree, and I think we're gonna be questioning that for forever. What were you thinking? I'd like to do some research too to see if that has come up before. Because this is this. Listen, I know we're not on episode 400. We're on episode 2, but we've mentioned it twice, so that's something we should be talking about. Let's look a little bit further. Okay, are you looking at the screen? For those of you that are just listening to our voices, you'll see that the Perils in Paradise card art, announce art, is on the screen. And that's a perfectly good segue into what we're about to talk about and what episode 2 is about. So listen, there are some people right now, and the complaints are just getting larger and larger and stronger and louder and louder. Hearthstone is just looking too silly. And there's a seriousness in the world of Warcraft, and they want that same series of blood and guts and gore and being upset and being, strong and running around and killing. And listen, you've got a Murloc dressed as a bartender, serving drinks. It doesn't mesh, and it's not working. And there's people talking about this right now. So I wanted to just unpack it a little bit. Is Hearthstone too silly now, and is it supposed to be silly, and are we losing a core audience because it's not how it used to look? And I'm gonna throw up some screens. Like, if you look at the legacy cards, Nick, I know you have a lot to say for this. When you look at the legacy cards, it makes sense. The legacy cards, when this game first came out, the trailer for the video when this first came out, for the game when it first came out, was more serious, was more ingrained into fantasy, was more, deep rooted into what we've seen in the art of World of Warcraft for years now. Today, not so much. Today, it looks a little bit like a cartoon, and it looks silly, and it looks very, very colorful and flashy. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm going to shut up now because, Nick, what do you think? Is Hearthstone too silly right now?
I love it. I love the bright colors. It makes it easier to see the cards, when you're actually playing them, see what minion is going to be on board if you're like playing the game and stuff like that. Also, like, who cares? Like, okay. Hearthstone is a spin-off card game inside of World of Warcraft that is talking about events that are happening in the game or fantastical events that haven't actually happened, but are just for fun. If I were to make a card game about human history, and I made a card, a card expansion about like the Renaissance, and then someone complained it's not edgy enough, and I should have put like the American Civil War as an expansion or something like that. Shut up, man. Okay. I know this is stupid to be like, oh, the lore reason, because there's not actually any lore reason. It's just funny. But like, if you're Hearth, because that's the only person we can assume is making the game, right? He wants people to buy his cards, right? So how do you get people to buy your cards? You make them flashy, you make them cool, you make them have iconic characters doing goofy stuff because people like crossovers. That's just like a natural thing. Humans like crossovers, so you would assume that people in like a video game world would like crossovers, right? So that's like, like if you're thinking it from that perspective, it doesn't make any sense to complain about it because like that makes sense, right? And then from a real life standpoint, the same thing. People like crossovers. People like cards they can actually see. People like goofy effects. And the average Joe Schmo that plays Hearthstone is like working a 9 to 5, and then they play this in their 10-minute break on the toilet, right? And if they see, I see Sunsapper Lanessa's feet, dude, I gotta buy this card, then they'll buy packs rather than just like, oh, this is some orc smashing another orc's head in with a club. It might be a strong card, but like, I don't think it's that cool looking,
Yeah, I agree. And I feel the same way. I feel like this is something that's fantasy. This is something that you're supposed to get out of it, as to where this is a game being played. Listen, this is supposed to be a distraction for those that are in, the Warcraft universe. But
yeah.
Art is subjective. And I've said this before in a couple of videos that I've done before, as to where, people are looking at the art and they're like, nope, I do not like the art anywhere. You can take any piece of art and you take two individuals and you say, do you like this? Someone could absolutely think that's the greatest piece of art ever. And then that same person next to that individual is saying, no, this is terrible. I have nothing to do with this art. When you're looking at the art, there's subjectivity to this. When I'm looking at these skins right now, so listen, on Hearthstone, there was a leak or something of some of the new skins revealed. Whether these are for the Tavern Pass or these are for something else, we don't know. But I'm looking at these, and I know that there's two distinct groups. This is kind of Disney-fied a little bit. These are cartoony or Disney-fied, pieces of artwork. For some, they don't want anything to do with it and said, I will not pay any money for these because it's too cartoony. That's fine. But there's some that will pay extra for that opportunity. I'm one of the ones that would look at this art and say, yes, this is amazing. If I can get Finley and I can get Sai and I can get Kit like this, I will pay for these if these are not in the Tavern Pass, or I will make sure, even though I always buy the Tavern Pass, I would buy the Tavern Pass to get those. And I think that's kind of like disconnecting a core audience of that has started playing the game and started going through, playing the game when it first came out and all the beta pieces to where they were looking at that older art that had more gritty, more grim, more realistic nature to it. And what do we do with this? Is there anything that we can do with this? Is there a solution that we could figure out what'll work for everybody? Nick, what do we do?
When you're talking about like the old art and like especially like the very early expansions, a lot of that art was from the Warcraft card game rather than Hearthstone itself. Yes. So like that's why it's like super gritty, right? Because it's supposed to be like, Warcraft, not its own entity like Hearthstone is. Because Hearthstone has all these, new, basically made up expansions that don't actually take place in Warcraft, rather than like the Warcraft cards that were all about the game itself. So like, yes. That's why I'm like, I don't really care about like the fantastical art. It just looks pretty cool. I will say, though, I'm not a fan of some of these, not because they're, like, bad or anything. I just don't like how they look,
Like, which ones? Let's unpack it.
It's really funny, because it's the three you named. I don't like Sai, I don't like Kit, and I don't like Finley.
That is funny.
So funny. Like, I just don't like how Kit's, like, big head. I don't like that. And then, like, Finley, I don't like how, like, I don't like the weird lighting on his body, where his, like, face is lit up, even though it's, like, the back of his hat is also lit up. It looks a little weird. And then, I don't know, I just don't like Sai in general as a character. But those are, like, my nitpicks, not, like, anything that's bad about these cards, No,
I get it. But so if the set had all of these in there, not including those three, you'd still be interested in this, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, like the Juin, the Adonis, and the Fireheart ones are like some of the best skins they've ever made, I think.
Yeah, they just did a pass a couple of weeks ago for Battlegrounds, and it was along the same veins. It was some of the heroes as animals, and it looked I mean, literally people were saying this is the Disney-fied version, and I was like, that is my jam. This is what got me into playing Hearthstone. Seeing like the Murloc running around and having a goofy face, that's what gets me into this game. And I don't want to discount anyone that feels like, okay, this game is not for me anymore. I just wish there was a way that, we could kind of balance this a little bit so we don't lose that group of players that have been playing for a long time. Listen, these tastes move around a little bit. You might like something today. Like, listen, some people like death metal, but they don't listen to death metal their entire life. They grow out of it, and maybe that's the situation. These individuals that are not liking the art anymore are getting more refined, more cultured, more into something. Their tastes are evolving. I'm not eating. You can't pay me to eat a school lunch anymore, but back in the day that was the best thing in the world. I just no thank you. I'm not eating that square Elios pizza ever again, but I used to love it.
Yeah So something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to marketing just in general with like card games is an easy example, is that the majority of people that are playing card games and buying things are whales, yes, but they're millennials. You know, those are the people who are actually buying the most cards, is millennials, and millennials eat this stuff up. Like, there's a reason that Harry Potter is like the best-selling book series ever, right? Is they eat up these kind of fantastical elements because it's an escape, right? That's not something that like Gen Z does as much, right? We don't consume that sort of media, right? Gen Z is just, in a literal sense, edgier than millennials were, and I could tell you for a fact the majority of the people that play Hearthstone are, you know, are in the millennial age group or older Gen Z. It's not like children or like I guess people more my age, right? Like I'm 22. It's not really those kind of people playing the game. Even my my YouTube analytics show this. It's like 40% of the people that watch my videos are in like the like 30-ish age group, you know, millennials. So it makes a lot of sense why they're pushing these kind of like goofy kind of things, because that's what they eat up. That's what they buy. And they don't really like the edgy stuff that much. The people that liked the edgy stuff were was Gen X. Like you had in the 90s when millennials were babies, you would sell all these, you know, like edgy stuff, 80s and 90s to this Gen X audience, who were playing World of Warcraft originally, or Warcraft the games originally. That's who it was, rather than like, you know, you grow up as a millennial in like the 90s, you see Pokemon, you see, you know, early 2000s shows where they're all like bright and they're all about like friendly, you know, the power of friendship and all that kind of stuff, right? You have Harry Potter, you have like Jack Skellington and the, what's it called? It's like the Nightmare Before Christmas or whatever.
Yep, Nightmare Before
Christmas. That's the stuff that millennials eat up. There's a reason that those brands, even though to like older and younger people don't really make sense to why they're popular, they are so popular.
Yeah, no, I like your thoughts here. I think that I think the last time I looked at my analytics too, I don't think I had anything more than like 5% of my audience being below the age of 18 years old or below the age of 21. So I totally get that. I just like the idea of, hey, you know, this is a game that has a lot of people that are interested in playing it or interested in finding out more about it or what have you. And if we can get someone that doesn't like what they're seeing or the direction that they're seeing, if we can turn that back, you know, and capture that essence, that's what I'd love. I don't want to see anybody, you know, log into the game and be like, yeah, I'm not happy anymore. You know, who wants that? I don't want that.
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean. I think it's a little unfair, the criticism about the game being too silly, because it's really not. Like, if you go down like the list and you compare like what's a silly expansion versus what isn't, there are way more serious expansions than the silly ones. And like people try to argue that like, oh, there's like, you know, 3 or 4 silly cards in those serious expansions, so they're not very serious.
Yeah.
They had like over 100 cards every expansion. That's not an argument. Like, like even going back, like we can go back 2020, Ashes of Outlands. That's a serious set. Skullomance, that's a little silly. Dark Moon Fair, all things considered, that's a fairly serious set because it is just completely based on what's happening in WoW. That complain about that is complaining that WoW is too silly, which the people that want to complain will never do. Then you have, you know, Forge of the Barrens, United in Stormwind, Alterac Valley, all incredibly serious. Sunken City, relatively serious. I'd say it's probably, you know, on the same level as Darkmoon Fair, being a little iffy, you know, half and half. Nathria is very serious. March of the Lich King is very serious. Then Festival of Legends, you know, one expansion that's very silly intentionally. Oh boy, you know, that's way too much. Titans, very serious. Showdown in the Badlands. Again, I'd say it's about a 50-50 of serious to silly, you know. And then Whizbangs and this one, dude, 4 of like, I don't even know, like 4 out of what would it be, 12 total?
12,
that's way too much. Way too much. Or I guess it'd be 11. Way too much, for sure.
There's also like when you're sitting there, because you know, trying to find graphics for this, I was looking through, and really the older expansions, once you get out of Legacy, they still have a lot of the same things. Like you'll cartoony image. It might not be all across the thing, but you know, I was looking through Goblins versus Gnomes. That was a little silly. There was some silly stuff in there. When you look at Knights of the Frozen Throne, yes, it had some strong themes, but the art was silly. I'm just, like I said, my goal is I want everybody to be happy all the time. If we could all sit there and hold hands and sing Kumbaya, we would definitely do that to make sure everything's copacetic. I don't like people being unhappy. I want everybody to log into the game and be like, this is the best game I've ever seen, I've ever played, I've ever experienced, and I want more of it. And listen, for everybody that's listening, I love to hear your thoughts. So would Nick. We would love for you all to unpack. Tell us, do you feel that the game is becoming too cartoony, too silly? We have a site. It's called speakpipe.com/hscomplaints. And we'd love for you to completely free go in. Tell us about how the game is treating you. Tell us, how you agree with our takes or how our takes are silly and, not really anything. If it's involving Hearthstone, we want to hear it. And guess what, Nick, we heard it this week. The first episode, we threw it out there and we have people going through and speaking to us. We've got voicemail and I'm excited that we have voicemail. And I think you're excited too, Nick.
Oh yeah. It's going to be funny. This is going to be so funny in this segment. Sorry?
Have you heard any of these ones yet?
I haven't. I've been saving it.
Okay.
I don't want to listen to them before we do this. I think it's more fun that way.
Okay, so I have the pleasure of listening to it beforehand, only because I need to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into crazy amounts of trouble or what have you.
Yeah.
But I'm pleasantly pleased that what we have here, we have 2 responses to the voicemail. We're gonna post them and then we're gonna unpack them and we're gonna go from there. And the first one was about our episode last week, and we've talked about it. It seems like Big E does not like Reno. Let's play this and then unpack it real quick.
Reno.
And that's it. Yes. Yes. And you know what, Biggie? That was perfect. And I love that you went on and you told me about that. You had me nervous, and I think you had Nick nervous as well, but that was amazing. And we're very happy that you told us your opinion here on the voicemail on speakpop.com/hscomplaints. Thank you, Biggie.
I'm so, oh my God.
It went places, right? You were like, what is Jay doing?
I just wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I was like so prepared for there to be like a serious kind of thing going on. Be like, this, that, and the other thing. Why didn't? It's just like, ugh.
It was perfect. It was perfect. And this is what we want. Listen, this is what we want, and we're about to hear some thunders and rumblings. Let's play the second one. Hold on one second. Okay, it started thundering, so my dog's gonna go nuts. Okay, let's go ahead and play the second one. We may know this person. We may know this person, but we're gonna play it. We're gonna see.
Hello? I just want to make sure that this is going to be anonymous, right? I mean, you're going to use like a voice changer or something before you use these? Oh, okay. You can start recording now. So this is basically a dude, and I've got some complaints that I think your listeners really need to hear. To start with, Hearthstone is out of control. Things are getting way too complicated. Did you know that every few months or so they release like 150 new cards? It's impossible for anyone to learn that many. I don't even know the names of most of the cards they already have. It's absurd. And you know why they do it? It's because they're digital. They don't cost the bigwigs at Blizzard anything to make, so they just go nuts and crank out card after card after card. Marvel Snap releases like, 6 cards a year, and that seems to work just fine for them. Why not give that a try for a while? Back in my day, we had real cards that cost real money. And if your brother bent your Shining Charizard, that was it. No crafting another. It was ruined. And the cards that weren't very good, you didn't spend all your time complaining about them. You stuck those in the spokes of your bike wheels and you shut the hell up about it. What was so bad about playing a Yeti on turn 4? And knowing that if you could drop Boulder Fist Ogre on curve, you had like a 90% win rate. Players today are so spoiled. I'm so bored. This meta is so boring. Why isn't every card perfectly balanced? Wild is unplayable. And how come my parents don't love me? Deal with it. That's life. But now you need all these new cards and new classes. And last time I checked, there's 219 keywords? It used to be we had 2 keywords, charge and taunt. And that was plenty, and that's how we liked it. And don't get me started on all these newfangled apps and deck trackers that all the kids use now. That's called cheating, plain and simple. Plus, it's how the government gets you. You want to know what cards your opponent played? Use your brain. Can't remember what secret you have in play? Put down the crack pipe and maybe it'll come to you. I started playing this game on an Etch-a-Sketch and took notes with a chisel and stone tablet, and that should be good enough for everybody else too. And what was the deal with all the bitching about daily quest changes? I'm not getting enough free stuff just for showing up. Are you actually mad that your participation trophy wasn't nice enough? Seriously? I play for the love of the game and the occasional card reveal, not for rewards.
Please deposit 15 cents for the next 5 minutes.
Damn it, I don't have any more change. All right, I'll have to get to the others next time.
Yeah, that was a thing too. So thank you to the completely anonymous individual that we all know and appreciate for that very thorough indication that he's going through some things. He's going through some things.
Yeah, he sure is.
I want to make sure everybody knows how much we appreciate these. We were stoked when we saw the first ones. Please. It's www.speakpipe.com/HS complaints. It doesn't cost you any money. You just go ahead and throw your thoughts on there. It's 90 seconds. If you want to send us an email, definitely send us an email. Leave a comment on these because we really want to see these. We want to know what you guys are feeling about the game, good, bad, or ugly, because this is the Hearthstone complaints department. What'd you think of that one, Nick?
Dude, oh my gosh. This is completely serious for a second. I came into this thinking we were going to get like real serious ones, right? Where people are giving this, that, the other thing, why they are actually upset about something. I was so not ready for these. I know. I can't have a straight face right now. It's just.
I know. This is good. This is what I want. I want the serious ones. Listen, we'll help you unpack stresses of the game. Absolutely. Nick is very well versed in this game and he's able to do, competition. And, I've been doing this game for a little bit. I know a thing or three. We want to help you unpack the bad, but also we want crazy takes. We want you to be silly and get your voices heard on here. Please, definitely. Speakpipe.com/HS complaints. All right.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's good, right? It's good.
So
Wait
funny.
until we see you next week. We hope there's something next week. There's some big shoes to fill, but I think we should hopefully have something next week. We'd be excited to hear from all of you. Yeah. Okay. There is a storm coming, and I don't mean through Hearthstone, but there will be a storm coming. We'll be able to see new cards this week. I am going to wrap this up before my dog goes Blitzkrieg Bop all over me. That's going to be it for this week's episode of the Hearthstone Complaint Department. Thank you for listening. Nick and I are having fun with this. Nick, are you having fun with this? I mean, I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth.
So much fun. I'm having so much fun. I can't. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm good. There's going to be so much more cool stuff. We haven't even talked about all the other things that we're going to do. So we're just getting started. We appreciate all of you. Nick, please tell us where everybody can find you if you're able to talk right now, because I see you still laughing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my stuff is over here that over there. Flare Hearthstone on YouTube, stuff like that. Oh man, you can catch me either doing some PowerPoints or on Twitter. I'm probably complaining about who knows.
If Nick complains, he brings receipts. So just remember that. He brings receipts. All right, and you can find me here. I'm at This Week in Hearthstone. It's, This Week in Hearthstone whatever it is on YouTube. Just search it. You'll find it. And then also This Week in HS on Twitter or X or whatever the heck you're calling it this way. We will be back next week. We will be back each and every week. Maybe we'll do some extra fun special stuff. Please, speakpipe.com/HS complaints to have your voices heard. We want to hear the saltiest take. And listen, we do not have a tagline yet, but if we did, it would be here. Have a good night, everybody. Nick, say goodbye.
Bye, guys.